prepping the team all week. I'm sure it's been, a fixture that's been in your head for quite some time. You look at the lineup, Aberdeen were not going to be, putting in a second string. They weren't going to take anything to chance in it. And in a way, that's actually, utmost respect to Edinburgh City.
Yeah, I think Stevens obviously wanted to just try and build a bit of momentum for the result against Rangers, naming the same 11. I'd expected them to make 4 or 5 changes, even when you look at the bench, Niall McGinn, Declan Gallagher, Dylan McGeoch, wouldn't have weakened the team any, but he went with the same team. And unfortunately for us, sometimes when they play a big game like they had against Rangers, you hope that they've got a bit of a hangover. Yeah. But unfortunately for us, they came out the traps flying. And it was a difficult first 15 or 20 minutes. And we got through it, but all through the game, and this is nothing against our lads, their shape, their movement, their rotation was very, very good. And it caused us a lot of problems, and we tried our best to try and fix it, the players on the pitch, us at the side. But at the end of the day, Aberdeen were just too strong for us. There isn't any disgrace in how we played. The players gave them every bit of energy that they had. But unfortunately, we came up against players that are better than our players and a team that played well. So, lots that I'm happy about. I think the biggest frustration for me probably is the timing of the second and third goals. Yeah. To lose a goal at half time and then at 90 minutes, and that's what I spoke to the players about after it, that we need to learn for this. When you're moving forward, when you're playing a league game, if you're 1-0 up at half time, you go in 1-0 up at half time. If you're 1-0 down with a minute to go, the worst you go in is 1-0 down. So you've got to learn, you can't just write the game off and say, we weren't going to get anything anyway. Obviously, there's things that we could have done better. But at the end, the lads they're running on empty really. Lads were shattered. And, you've got to give Aberdeen credit as well, because they played really well.
I know you're happy with the discipline of the shape, because I guess, if you lose discipline and shape and concentration, teams like Aberdeen will just pull you apart as well.
I thought the shape was better in the second half when we brought Callum Crane on. Robbo was no well, he felt no well, so we had to take him out. We couldn't actually start Callum and Lee because it's just both coming back for injury, and we had to watch that they could only play a certain amount of minutes each. So that's why I didn't start Callum and Lee together. And when I look at it, if I'm being honest with you, Callum, if we had had the full squad available, that wouldn't have been my starting 11. Because coming to Aberdeen, and this isn't me trying to be defensive, we had too many attack-minded players in the team. Yep. If you want to think about, we had Uzi, Robbo, Innes, Danny Handlin, Anthony McDonald. Well, you're coming to a team that's probably pushing for 3rd or 4th place in the league. And we're coming here with 5 attack-minded players. And that's great in one sense if you can get the ball, but in another sense, the defensive part doesn't come as easy to them. And I probably would have liked to have been a wee bit more defence-minded players in the starting 11, and then brought some of these attacking players on. However, the squad was how it was, and the players done everything they could to try and get us a result. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough today.
A number of plus points though you would take for the game. You've got young Farrell. Again, being at the club since... That's
because he's standing behind me, you've said to me.
And I don't know that either. He's played 90 minutes.
Listen,
I've got of that intensity against experienced pros.
I've got great belief in James, that's why he got a professional contract. Not just because he's standing there. I like him as a boy. I think he's got good qualities. He needs to learn. We need to try and get him better. We need to get him fitter. We need to get him stronger. And we'll work with him to do that. And I had no problem playing him. My biggest worry was I putting in a game that was coming too early, because for your third start to be against Aberdeen, Christian Ramirez, J. Emmanuel Thomas when he comes on, I was maybe asking too much. However, James done fine. He done really well. Off the top of my head, I can't think any real mistakes that he made. Obviously, when looking back, there'll be 1 or 2 that'll be able to help him for, but he didn't make any glaring mistakes. And we had to play Lee Hamilton with him as well, and Lee's been out for 3.5 months, 3 months with no reserve games, and Lee done really well to get us 60-65 minutes as well, So all in all, when you factor that in with the players that were missing, with Aberdeen, we are having to play more attack-minded players than I wanted to play, with Aberdeen playing what you could arguably class as a full-strength team, I was a little bit worried before the game. Yeah. But the players done proud, they stick together. And there's just little bits that we need to learn moving forward to help us in our league campaign.
As you've elaborated on as well, good to see Hamilton back to get again a bit, maybe 40 minutes or so to Callum Crane. and maybe you maybe didn't want to push them too early into that game, but it's got to be plus points going forward into the league.
Yeah, listen, we just need to manage them carefully, We're going to end up with about 6 games in 23 days or something in February, so we need to make sure we've got the majority of the squad fit and available, and we're going to have to rotate the squad. There's been a few comings into the club, a few goings for the club, and but I'm nearly there with what I'm happy with, and when you look at James today and Lee, and then you add that to Jack Bryden and Michael Travis, you've got 4 players competing for 2 positions, and that competition's only going to drive us on. So, no, great to have the lads back, because we have been severely under strength for a number of weeks now. We've got some new things in the Elgin, carried the level of performance on against Kelty. We weren't as in control of the ball today, which is obvious when you're playing Aberdeen. But I still thought there was a lot of good discipline in terms of our shape, and that would have been hard for the players. Mentally hard and physically hard. Mentally, you're constantly moving, your brain's working, am I going there, am I going there? Physically, forward, back, sideways, never standing still. So that would have been a hard shift for our players. So what we need to do is make sure we didn't give them too much at training on Monday, the ones that played, give the other lads just enough. Train them on Wednesday, and then we now need to kick on into the league. I think we've got, 16 games or 16 games left, I think. We need to be trying to pick up the majority of the points and make sure that come the end of the season we're in the playoffs.
And if you don't mind me asking, just at the end of the game, you were having a couple of minutes conversation with Stephen Glass, would you mind elaborating on?
No, I was just listening, it was just a wee bit of just talking, and I was saying to him, just speaking really about that I thought he would maybe have made a few changes and stuff like that, and he obviously told me why he didn't.
Yep.
And then we were just speaking about he thought the lads had done well. Disciplined, worked their socks off, and I was just saying, it's very difficult when Aberdeen are in the form that they're in, and the play to that form for part-time lads to come up here and try and compete with that is very, very difficult. And he agreed with it. I go back a wee bit with Stephen. I've not seen him for a while, and I was just asked. So listen, just good to catch up. The game was, I think it was the 91st, 92nd minute. And what you generally found now with the COVID is you don't really get to see the opposing manager. So I just wanted to make sure I'd seen him and caught up with him. It's not really right to do it before the game when we're both focusing on our teams. So it was just catching up with somebody that I know quite well, and just moving on now for me, trying to think about the team next week, because we're now starting to get people back. There's Callum and Lee back today. We've got the 3 lads that were cup tied will be back next week. I don't think we've picked up any injuries. Robbo was not well. Robbo's been a wee bit stop-start for us, recently since the Cowdenbeath game. He's missed a lot of training with COVID, and I think he had a mouth infection, and the day he's picked up another wee bit of an illness. So we can't really get the wee man training or playing regularly now. So we've got to just have to be careful with him over the next couple of weeks and make sure that we don't ask too much of him.
Well, Gary, thanks very much. Have a safe journey home.
Cheers, Callum.